Welcome to the 17th episode of Phenomenal Woman Wednesday.
I am your host, Dr. Saran Nataki. Thank you for joining. Welcome to Power 365 Phenomenal Woman Wednesdays. This podcast will address issues ranging from what is a phenomenal woman? Are you enough? Community service, paying it forward, the manifestation of dreams with words and action, the power in being a woman, the men who support phenomenal women, fashion, and much more. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Phenomenal Woman Wednesday. Today I have a very, very special guest, Mrs. Ebony Shield. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
I'm very honored to have you. Mrs. Ebony Shield is a phenomenal woman. She is a wife, a mother, a daughter, and she also has a very compassionate, requires a lot of compassion career as a school psychologist for secondary schools. And so, Ebony, why don't you share a little bit with my listeners about who you are? And again, welcome.
Well, again, thank you for having me. As you mentioned, I'm a wife. Been married for a very long time now, coming up on 18 years.
Congratulations.
I have 4 children. Thank you. I have 4 children, 16, almost 14, almost 10, and 6. And yes, I'm a practicing school psychologist and have been also for quite some time, a little over 16 years. And just been helping people, working with people, and learning all along the way.
Yeah, awesome. So, I want to take a little bit of credit for the baby.
I certainly appreciate your motivation.
Yeah. I did dream about him before he came. I dreamt that she was going to have a baby boy, and here he is.
And it came to fruition. And he is here, and he is great. And I am so thankful that you had that dream, and that everything came to me, and that God blessed us with him. And yes, he's a funny little guy, and totally different from my girls. So it's an experience I wouldn't change in the world.
Yeah, mommies and sons are that's very special relationship. So I'm glad you have it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so Ebony, I'm going to ask you several questions that I ask all of my guests, and then we'll get into some of the more detailed questions that I have for you specifically. So the first being, what does it mean to you to be a phenomenal woman?
Well, I think when we think of phenomenal women, at least for me, I constantly think of women who have been on these larger stages or have, set their footprint in the world on a larger scale. Mm-hmm. And they are phenomenal women. And I'm appreciative of all the things that women have put into place before me. Mm-hmm. But of course, as I've become older, I've learned to know and to recognize that the phenomenal women are also those everyday women. Those women who are moms, who are wives. But what makes them phenomenal is their ability to just do what's necessary all the time. Mm. And finding a space, even though it may be difficult, but finding a space to push through anything and to get things done. So when I think of phenomenal women, I think of, quite honestly, like a lot of my peers who are experiencing the same thing that I'm experiencing right now, being a mom, being a wife, balancing work, still trying to find time for yourself, still trying to maintain a relationship with the Creator. Just, those are things that I now view as characteristics of phenomenal women.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's awesome. I think, especially when you're talking about, what did you say? The ability to do what's necessary all of the time. That's pretty deep. And being a wife, a mom, and also balancing a career like you mentioned, it does take a lot of skill. Like you tap into skills you didn't even think that you had to be able to really manage all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you do. You do. I've learned, and I'm still learning. I still have so much work to do. Oh my goodness! But still, like you mentioned, you learn and you do things that you would have never expected.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you learn to manage tasks in a different way. I've always been someone who outlines things, put it together. I have the schedule set. I'm on it. And then, you learn, okay, that's not going to work in this situation. And you come up with some other creative ideas. And you know what? Sometimes you don't come up with anything. You're just sitting in the middle of the floor dumbfounded. Like, how did this happen? What just took place? And now you're trying to pick up the pieces and put it back together. So,
Amen.
Definitely, so something just always a work in progress. Always a work in progress.
Yeah, for sure. Especially having children, at the various ages that you have, and you have a teenager, and then you have a little one. So you're trying to manage several different phases of life and do it well. Now that alone is a huge challenge. So yeah. So when you think about the phenomenal women in your life, who would you say they are? I know you mentioned your peers, but who would be the phenomenal women in your life?
I think again, the obvious would be for me to commend my mom, and of course now being a mom and seeing some of the experiences that she had, and to now understand them as a grown woman. She is a phenomenal woman. She lost her mother at a younger age. I would say at a crucial age. She was in her very early 20s, which would be very early in her marriage. Had just had her first child, and to see my mom come to the space where she is now, it's an awesome thing. It's an awesome thing, and I just to see her go through life right now so gracefully, which I would never have understood as a teenager, which I didn't understand as a teenager.
Yeah, for sure.
But as an adult woman now, now I can see all of her experiences, and I say, wow, that's a phenomenal woman. Even with my mother-in-law, she has taught me a lot of great things. I have a great relationship with her, and I've learned from some of her own experiences as well. She has taught me quite a few things, but again, to see her resilient, to see both of them took care of their parents for extended amounts of time, that really tapped into their personal strength and having to do this while still working, and they were caretakers for their parents for years, which was a blessing. But you can imagine that that's also taxing, when it was 10, 15 years that you were the primary caregiver of individuals. So just again, when I look at them and see the everyday tasks being taken care of, they're phenomenal women. And then the others, like I mentioned, are my peers, and I can never negate that from some women that we know in common, to some of my personal friends, but just to see women overcome things, to see women just really go through the process of finding out who they are, what makes them phenomenal, and even during those times when we're not feeling phenomenal, just constantly seeing that it rejuvenates me. So a lot of my peers who did things that I can even say today I was afraid to do, that I didn't do. I think about that all the time, and I'm so proud of people around me. And so, yeah, those are individuals that I think of. For me, the phenomenal women, what works for me, they have to be individuals that are in close proximity to me. I can reach out to you. I can, whether that's literally physically touching you or picking up a phone call or sending a text. But those are the phenomenal women in my life. They're close. They're in my circle.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And you say, obviously my mom, it's not, unfortunately, some people don't have that, experience. So that's a very rich and beautiful experience to be able to identify your mother off the top, as the phenomenal woman in your life, and then have such a positive relationship with your mother-in-law.
Something that's interesting, a little off topic, but even with my mom and my mother-in-law, of course, early in the relationship with my husband and I, this idea from my mom, where she never felt slighted with my mother-in-law. I call my mother-in-law mommy, and I call my mom mama. That's my mama. But when you just again talk about the phenomenal women, for my mom, what I love about her, she recognized her importance to me. That didn't shift anything. It didn't change anything. Again, just that idea of phenomenal women. It's like we recognize our worth, and it's not questioned. It's not, people don't get intimidated by the presence of another phenomenal woman. So that was just a side note, but that's something that
that's very, very important. Yeah, no, that's very important because when I can certainly see what you mean, about being intimidated by the presence of someone else, or feeling like someone else is stepping into your role. But your mom, she was confident in her role because she's phenomenal. And probably because she also because she lost her mother at an early age, she may have recognized the benefit of you having that positive relationship with your mother-in-law because, maybe that was an experience she had as well.
Exactly.
Okay. So when you talk about these women in your life, and how would you say, have you adopted any of the characteristics that you see in those women around you into your own person? Is there anything that, you look at and you say, wow, and it really just had an impact, it imprinted upon you?
There's quite a few things, and some days, it's a characteristic that I practice often, and I'm on it, and there are some days where you forget about it, and you go back and you think. But when I think some general themes, when I think about a lot of the phenomenal women in my life, a big one is perseverance, and that's one for me that I can say I grapple with daily, because there are some days, like I mentioned, you're on, you have this plan, you know who you are, you're feeling great, everything is taking place. And then there are some days where you say, I don't know if I have the strength to get through this moment. Lord, please, like something, I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
So perseverance, that's a big one. That is a big one. Another I constantly learn is patience. That characteristic, that one, I continue to be a work in progress on that one. And patience, and when I think about patience, I think a lot of times for many people, the thought goes straight to perhaps with like children, being patient with your children, or, being patient, even just in general, being patient with others. And that all is true. And I definitely could continue to improve with that. But I think a big part of patience for me is even patience in progress. And that sometimes, sometimes I want things in the immediate. And it doesn't happen that way. And, to have that patience to know that things will take place when they need to have that perseverance to push through in the meantime. But patience is another one. And then I think that another big one is faith. And again, that is one that I can truthfully say, has wavered. I've had personal things in my life that has tested that.
Yeah.
But that is something that many of the phenomenal women that are around me maintain, and they always speak of it and speak on it. And so that's another big one. So I think those are all characteristics that I try to embody, that I try to exude. But So those are some of them.
You mentioned faith. Those are all like very relevant, very amazing characteristics: perseverance, patience, and faith. Wow! And if we can practice all three of them at the same time, like how great would we be?
That'd be awesome.
So because oh my goodness, being able to persevere, especially as a parent, you go through things with your kids that, and the more you have, the greater it ups the ante. Like it's like wow, okay. You make it with that one kid is easy, woo, smooth sailing. Then the next one comes like, wait a minute, what? And then
right.
and so and it's just life, growing pains. They all grow differently. They're different people, and there are we can only draw on our own experiences. So they are going to have experiences that are different than our own. So when we stumble upon them, and we realize that in some instances we really lack the tools at that moment to navigate it, perfectly. So we have to learn as we go. And it's in that learning process where we really have to lean on the patience and the faith and absolutely having those women around you is important because, when you're dealing with things and you're having to, like you mentioned, our faith wavers. That is the beauty of that circle, right? So that circle is there to say, okay, right now you may be feeling this way, but we got you. It's gonna, we have faith for you on your behalf. We are praying for you. We're wishing you well. We have all those positive vibes. So those are
exactly perfect. And let me say, it is a humbling experience to, as you mentioned, when you're trying to use the tools necessary to get through things. But it's a humbling experience when you realize in that moment that you don't have the tools.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be intentional. It just is.
Yeah.
But, to be able to say, I don't know what to do.
That's right.
Or to be able to say, I don't have that experience. This is unfamiliar territory. To ask for that help, whatever that looks like, and I don't want it to sound as if you're always talking about negative scenarios or ones that bring on more heartache or anything like that. It could be the most joyous thing. It could be just planning a birthday party and you say, you know what, but I've never done it. I have no idea what to do with that.
Right.
But just that humbling experience again of being able to say, hey, I need to lean on you a little bit. That's a good one. Yeah. So that's another characteristic. I think many of the women, many of the women who have been around me, we all have different stories, and I can say for myself, growing up, I had a good upbringing. I didn't have any traumatic experiences, and didn't have the devastation of divorce, from my parents or anything like that. So, but I know that for the women who are in my circle, we have all kinds of stories. Yeah. And, to be able, again, to learn from each other in all of it. And, again, to just be humble enough to say, I don't know. I need your help on this. Yeah, because I didn't experience that. I don't know what that looks like. It's another positive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a perfect segue into the next thing I'd like to talk to you about. So, as you mentioned, you've had some challenges that you've had to overcome and really lean heavily on your faith, all those things you talked about. You had to lean on them and your circle, right? So, your very close circle. So, I would like for you to share with my listeners, like, what would you identify as one of the most major challenges that you have had to experience thus far in your life?
Well, unequivocally, hands down, and because you're familiar with my story,
Mm-hmm.
but the biggest challenge that I've had so far in my life is that I am a breast cancer survivor.
And congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Praise
I
God.
certainly appreciate that. Yes, coming up on 6 years. July will be 6 years.
Woo woo! Yay!
But yes, but for that experience to have happened and under the circumstances that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I appreciate you asking me about that. And clearly my story, but let me start by saying it's a story that, let's be honest, it is filled with sadness, with grief, with happiness coming out on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a process. It was up and down, and I think a lot of times people think of that experience as really being isolated with the individual who has that medical condition.
Yeah.
But there are so many people that are impacted as well. And so for me, it was very, I can say it was tragic in that this was completely unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
I was 37 and had really just had my son.
Mm-hmm.
He was, I'd have to really think back, but he was either 6 or 7 months old. And, things become a blur at some point.
Yeah.
But here I had this infant baby that I was nursing, and all of a sudden he just decided to stop nursing. And I was like, oh, well, I don't know what that's about. But after baby number 4, a part of you was a little relieved of, hey, I only have to nurse for 6 months. All right, I'm done, and found a lump. But for me, I've always been in tune with my body, always, even as a teenager. Because I actually found my first lump when I was 15, and had it removed. But it was benign. But just to tell you how in tune I was with my body, and that's something that I encourage with my girls, all of that. But back to my diagnosis. So when I felt this lump, it didn't alarm me initially because I just stopped nursing, and as if women are familiar with that process, so I thought it was just a process of my milk drying up and things like that, and I'll give it some time to go away. And after about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, it hadn't softened, it hadn't gotten any smaller. I'm thinking, no, let's go get this checked out. An aggressive type, especially for African American women. I was HER2 positive, what they call HER2 positive. And to then start that process of what treatment will look like, the decisions to be made, I was completely in a daze. No family history of this from either sides of my family. Nobody on my dad's side that I knew of, more in my immediate family, like my grandmother, my aunts, his direct sisters. The same on my mom's side, from my mom or my grandmother, my aunt on that side, my mom's sister. Nothing. So this was interesting, and this shook a lot of people. And when I say a lot of people, clearly my husband, my children were young. My oldest was 10 at the time, so she understood that that's the wonderful thing about babies, because they still see the world through a lens that isn't jaded yet. And so I think they had an understanding, but not quite. But my husband and I, we were very honest with our kids about what was happening. They knew everything, even if they didn't quite understand it, but we didn't hide any of it.
Yeah.
Even, what was going to take place. And so, yeah, again, as I went through treatment, I was surrounded by all the phenomenal women in my life, you included, of course, but my mom, my mother-in-law, my husband, my family and friends, everybody surrounded me. And as I mentioned, those three things, with that perseverance, that patience, that faith, because all of it was either being questioned or being challenged in that moment. And for the next year, actually a little more than a year, yeah, that was a process of having to go through all of that. And as I mentioned, how it's a humbling experience to be able to say that I don't have the tools. People will say, but you're a psychologist, or you understand how the mind works, and you understand, that will still shake you. And everything that that you learned from some textbook is out the door, because there is that moment of fear. There is that moment of doubt. And you have to work through that process. And especially with the type of cancer that I had, and it was just a very interesting process, and trying to determine which medical facilities and who to work with, and do I really even want to go through with chemotherapy? I had to have a discussion with one of our close friends who was a doctor when radiation was recommended, because initially I didn't know if that was something I wanted to do. But I think a big part that certainly this was the greatest challenge that I've had thus far in my life. But I want people to take away from it are a couple of things. One, that it can happen to anyone. So to be aware and to make sure you just learn about what's happening to you if that were to come up. Two, it gave me a different view on life. And sometimes I still even fall short where, sometimes when you're just upset, you're upset. Yeah. And, you for that moment, you don't always say to yourself, hey, but you've overcome breast cancer. Right. So this will be okay. No, that's not my thought every day. Should it be? Perhaps. I don't know. But it's not. That's not how that always works. Exactly. I'm human. And then the other part is to just that experience, like I mentioned, for the aspect of being humble, it opened me up to asking for help and to being able to say, I can't do it, because that's never been one of my, that just hasn't been something that I was very accustomed to. I usually would take care of things myself. I, as you've mentioned to me before, being a strong individual, and a lot of people see me who know me, they see me in that light, and they see me in that manner. And I can say for the first time, that was a moment in time where I felt broken. Yeah. And it was hard to, come from that to say, well, what happened to this strong Ebony, that people know, that as an individual, like a self-perception. And so, that was a big challenge for me. That was a challenge.
So when you talk about being, where people saying, where is the strong Ebony? There are, as women, we have to give ourselves some slack, because there's times in my own life even where I've had to just let down the guard, just put down that shield that I carry around, and all the weaponry that I carry to like protect and defend my family, and and all of that, and being the problem solver extraordinaire, and all of those things, and just put it down and say, I need your help. I'm tired. I don't know what to do. I have no clue what to do about this situation. And so But when you do come out on the other side of it, there you are, stronger than what you were. So there is the strong Ebony. Here you are. It's you are you are here. This is it. You are still strong and stronger. One of the things that I wanted to say to you too. So I remember when I learned of your diagnosis, and anyone who really knows me knows that I am the glass half full person. So I will, any situation, I jump to the light. Okay, there's the light. There's the light. Okay, we're gonna go to the light. We're gonna hang out here, and this is where we're headed. Which is a great thing. However, when you're dealing with someone that has a life challenge as challenging as the one that you were dealing with, and you're trying to be of support, it's a very tricky road as a friend to really get that right. To really get that right. To give the support that in the way that it's needed. And so I just want to share this because for anyone else who finds themselves in a situation where they're trying to support a friend through a really difficult time. And I want to openly apologize to you too, because I remember one of the first things I did, I sent you an article about a young lady who had gone through her own cancer journey. And it was a really, wonderful article, beautiful, about, what her cancer taught her. And I sent it. I'm like, okay, this will inspire her, and I sent it to you. and I think you hadn't even had surgery. You were like at the very beginning of this journey, like just trying to put it all together, looking at your kids, and not to even, dismiss the fact that you had just had a baby. Like you're still dealing with all of the hormonal fluxes just from being, postpartum, and now this, and here you get this article about, hey girl, this is what her cancer taught her. You about to go on this journey, that's just like,
you got this. Yeah. Read the article.
Yeah, read the article. And first of all, it was coming from the most sincere place, but I'm not too proud to say I got it wrong. I apologize. And hopefully I was able to give you the support you needed, as we went along, because I did realize along the way, like that wasn't, girl, what are you doing? Like she's not there,
Well, see, this is why, again, this makes you a phenomenal woman. It's because you know where your heart was. And it was never taken like that. While I appreciate you recognizing that, bigger thing was as a friend, I know your actions, and it was appreciated. And to be quite honest and frank, it needed to happen. And that was because I tell you, one of the best things through this process that someone said to me, and it actually was from my husband. And I don't know if it's a saying or not. I don't know. But I certainly hold on to it. And it was because I was emotional. I was mad. Yes, you have those moments with the Creator where I'm like, really? Like, what have I done that was so bad? You go through all of that. You go through those episodes of guilt. You go through those episodes of anger. You go through those episodes of sadness. And I have to say that I recognized what you were doing, and I did not take it in a negative light at all. So why I say it was necessary is because my husband said to me that I was crying and crying and crying. He said, babe, you can cry. Cry, do what you need to do, cry. But we will not vacation here. So do what you need to do. Pack it all up, but we have work to do. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I let you vacation here. And, for some, people might think like, oh my God, that's so mean, or
No.
that she just let her feel how she's feeling, and in that moment, I was able to, but it was also a reminder that there is something on the other side of this. A reminder that, to me, as I mentioned to you earlier, it's not just me.
Mm-hmm.
My husband was impacted by this, tremendously.
Yeah.
My parents were impacted by this. This is their baby girl. They tremendously. My older brother, to this day, he still gets teary-eyed. Like, my middle brother, everybody, my children, it wasn't just me,
Mm-hmm.
and so you're doing that, like I said, it was not, I know that it was not done in vain, and I actually appreciated it because it, in addition to, even though, yes, it was in the beginning of the process, but it was a reminder, if nothing else, that there were still people there that were supporting me, that there were still people there who were thinking of me and praying for me, and it was a reminder of, hey, I know who you are. I know what God has created in you. I know the strength that you have. And while, it may not feel it right now, I need you to get back to that space so that you can work through this. And so all of those were reminders of that.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And, kudos to Russell, to your husband, for being able to be strong enough to tell you, strong Ebony, look, shed your tears, but then we have to get to work. We have things that we have to do. And, you've chosen well. So, and I really admire how he supports you. Whenever I see the two of you together, it really does warm my heart to see a family, a Black family, that is thriving, supporting one another, having come through something like this together, survived it. Some people don't survive those kinds of challenges. They fall apart. But you didn't.
Right.
You didn't. You stayed together. You're stronger as a unit. And your children, like the story that you tell about your mom being the phenomenal woman.
Right.
I can only imagine, what they'll say about you, if they're asked this question, later in their lives. So.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm a crier, and here we are. Here we are. Okay, I think this is the third time I've cried on a podcast. Lord, I gotta pull it together.
Emotions are good things. Yeah. Emotions are good things.
But yeah, so now that you're on the other side, you've picked up some tools along the way, and God forbid if any of us ever need them, we're coming to you.
I'm more than happy to share.
Yeah, what did your cancer teach you?
Ooh. It's so many things. There's so many things. And even, it's funny because even talking about it right now is giving me even some reminders of things, as we're talking about it. But I think a big one is to not lose faith.
Mm-hmm.
That is big. And why I say that, I have to digress a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Why I say that is because even growing up, I was not from that family whose mom and dad was like, hey, we're going to church every Sunday. We're going to sit down. You can't listen to this kind of music. Mm-hmm. I didn't have that kind of experience. Mm-hmm. Not at all. I always had the experience and understanding for me that, there is a creator, there is a higher being that really is involved in your makeup and your spirit and who you are. But I think through this process, it certainly reminded me of that. And I think it even gave me a space to be more comfortable to share it with other people. Mm. And that is just, it was never something that existed for me in the past. yeah, it gave me a renewed faith in in my own kind of spirituality and in people, because I was in a position where I couldn't do anything, so I had to surrender myself to something. I had to surrender myself to the information that my doctors were giving me. I had to surrender myself to, the help that my mom was doing, above and beyond what she was already offering and supporting to our family. I had to surrender to, my husband doing all that he could, plus some, while still trying to work and still trying to support his family and all those kinds of things. So it definitely gave me a renewed faith. I think another thing that it has done is it, believe it or not, even though I'm a psychologist, it made me get back in tune to who I am. And I'm still working on that, still trying to figure that out. But I think it was a necessary wake-up call. That I had gotten into a space of being content, but not necessarily pushing through to a greater level of progress. I was comfortable with the everyday. I was comfortable with the monotonous routine. And so I think that was something else that it taught me to challenge myself. And I struggle with that, because we get comfortable. We're human. We get comfortable. Yeah. I don't want to look. I take the same route to work every day. I don't want to detour.
Right. Right.
So even having to challenge myself in that regard, I think it was something else that experience taught me. And I think another one, which is a difficult one, and I still to this day fight with it, is being comfortable with how I look. To be comfortable with how I look. It changes you. I don't know how else to explain it. This is a reality. My body is altered. I experience things that I never had to experience before. I've lost all of my hair, even though I wore my hair long growing up, cut it off short in college. I did gamut, but it's one thing to do it by choice, and it's another thing for it to happen because that's just what it is.
Yeah.
But all of these things, and to just be able to live in that, it's helping me learn to do that because I'm in a different state. And so that lesson of, hey, even today at 44, I'm not the same woman I was at 35. I'm not the same woman I was at 25. Surely not the same person I was at 20. So, sometimes I think we're afraid. Oh, Lord, thank you. I know that, sometimes we're afraid to move through those levels or because we don't know what it looks like, but I think this experience has given me this faith to really be okay. Like, I'm okay with my age. People say, oh, you shouldn't say that doesn't bother me. Do you know some of the stuff that I've been through?
Exactly. I'm glad to be here.
I can share less about that part, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's still that part, again, of you still being human, of you still being a woman, of you still having a certain level of vain or vanity, that still plays in your mind. And so this has been a process for me of getting comfortable with my new me. And again, playing back to that strong Ebony and that, that Ebony who would find different ways to get things done. If something has to get done, it has to get done. That's not an option. And if it's not a straight path, okay, well then we got to figure out another one, even though it might be scary because you're so used to something being a certain way. But it really has taught me me that. And, and sometimes I forget it. Sometimes I forget that, whether it's talking to my children, whether it's communicating with my husband, whether it's, hey, staying in touch with my friends, all that, you get into your routines, and sometimes you forget about those things that are important.
Yeah.
So, but I think it was an experience that helped bring those things back to the top of my list and not, somewhere in there.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that stands out to me in what you said is when you said it taught you to be comfortable with yourself. And, even without cancer, women, we go through that. We go through the changes in our bodies. We fight against it. We try to, maintain, like when you're talking about being in your 20s. I certainly don't want to go back to my 20s at all. But just, like ever. I mean, I did it, it was a necessary means to an end, and, there were some, highs and lows, but here we are.
Right.
And so, happy to be here. And, but the thing that stands out is that, as we go through the changes that our bodies naturally take, we are almost like we change in life. We go through these circumstances and situations and diagnoses, like yours, and then we try to hold ourselves to these standards that are unrealistic. We are changed women, but we are trying to hold on to this external, and it doesn't match up. Like we're mature. There are certain things that take place in a woman's body that are beautiful, that that change over time, and but society doesn't let us have it. And I think, and you may feel differently, but this is me, from the outside looking in and how I observe you. I think you're more beautiful now than you ever were, with those changes that I know about. You're being able to be comfortable in it and just be you. Honestly, and I'm not just saying it because you're my friend, but it is very inspirational. Yeah, it is very inspirational, because it's a thing that we struggle with as women. But to be able to look at another woman who has had to go through such a change and metamorphosis, and now be like, hey, this is it. This is how I am. And I mean, there are times even, I'll share this with you, like, I would be in your presence and I would just be staring at you. I don't know if you ever noticed that. And I'm like, why is she staring at me?
Okay, so now I'm going to start looking every time.
Why is she staring at me?
Okay,
but
I'm going to need you to stop staring.
but the reason is because you're so comfortable in your own skin. And it's very, very attractive. Like, just, you don't overload yourself with makeup, and no shade to anyone who has fun with makeup, but you wear your skin, and it's beautiful. I'm like, wow, Ebony's just like naturally beautiful, Thank you.
Yeah. Well, look, let truth be told, I just never really learned how to do makeup.
Well, it works for you, but you're beautiful.
Even as a teenager, I can look at one of my high school pictures, and I'm like, why do I have on turquoise eyeliner and some lip gloss that does not match at all?
Well, back then it was the fuchsia. It was that, what was it called?
Yeah.
That, I forgot what it's called. But yeah, the fuchsia and the blue eyeliner, that's what was popular.
Yes. I'm trying to, that's a shame, because I'm really about to show myself, but I was really trying to think of the number lip gloss that you could buy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of too.
I cannot think of the number. I want to say it was 35 or 39. But yes, it was that fuchsia, that hot pink.
The hot pink.
Yes, yes, that was the color.
And blue eyeliner. But, like, I don't know why. I don't know what that was about, but yeah, that was the thing.
There are some fans that we should just never partake in.
Right. or the dark. Remember the outlining the lips and the like black pencil.
Yes, you would wear like red lipstick and outline it with black. Why?
I don't know what that was for.
Who started that? Now, somebody ought to be ashamed. Now, see, clearly, They didn't have phenomenal women around them.
That's
Somebody
right.
should have said that was not okay.
Right. Where were the phenomenal women in their lives, right?
Where were the phenomenal women right at that moment?
Oh my gosh. But yeah, but
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. But I think just to get back to what I was trying to say about what you said, it sounds like your experience liberated you in that's what I feel like I'm interpreting from what you said. Like it liberated you from the pressure of, external value systems. Like,
And I think that, in all fairness, it did to a certain extent. It did. Some of the external things, like for me, I am not one who my hair. I don't fall into that category of I have to have hair or I have to have extensions or I will cut my hair off in a minute. Whether it was because I had to embrace it from literally being completely bald. I mean, bald. I don't know, but it doesn't bother me at all, but the external, it did help in that regard. But don't get me wrong. I have my moments,
right? Yeah.
I have my days, where, hey, I can be truthful and say there are times where in the summertime, I hate the summertime. Why? Because that's when everyone wants to wear tank tops. And that's when everybody wants to wear bathing suits. Right. And I have to rearrange my thoughts. Not that I can't wear tank tops and bathing suits,
right.
No. But, no, it's not going to be the same type of bathing suit that I would have bought. Hello?
Yeah.
Post-diagnosis.
Right.
So there are still those moments where, on occasion, yes, I do still succumb to some of the pressures that are put there.
Yeah.
But again, I try to work through them. I do as best I can, and when I fall short, I fall short. And I, as my husband say, I pick yourself up because we can't vacation there.
That's right.
And I try to do that. I may not be successful in that moment, but I'll get there.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. But that's again part of the journey.
Part of the journey, part of your journey, part of being a woman. Yeah.
Yep.
Part of being
exactly.
a woman. Okay, well, wow, thank you so much for sharing all of what you have shared with me and my listeners and being so vulnerable. I have one final question for you.
Sure. Okay.
And it is, what do you think COVID-19 is teaching us?
Ooh, yes. We are in the midst of this, aren't we? Well, I hope that it's teaching us a few things. I hope that it's giving us a different appreciation for family and spending time together and being able to press a pause button. Those things have happened in these past 7 or 8 weeks by someone else having to tell us to do it. And I hope, myself included, that it's something that I can do when I know that it's needed. There's something about this process that feels good about spending more time with family. Hey, flat out saving money because I'm not doing a lot of things that I was doing before.
Yeah.
And a different appreciation, even though I'm in the school setting every single day, a different appreciation for our teachers.
Amen
but I
to
think
that.
For me, yes. But I think for me personally, it has given me yet again another example of you can do something that you thought you couldn't. I would have never imagined having to quote unquote homeschool my 4 children from grades 10 through kinder myself.
Mm-hmm.
while working at the same time because I'm in the school setting, so I still have things that still need to be done. On top of still trying to find time for you because everybody is now in this one space.
Right.
I think overall that this process has just it has really taught me again the importance of spending time, family, and recognizing when it's time to say we need to take a break, to unplug, as people would say.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I used to unplug, but now I'm realizing maybe I wasn't.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because now I'll sit here and I think to myself, no, I don't know that you were actually unplugged. But these last few weeks, I can say differently. So, yeah, and a big one is to be more kind to people. I think this is probably the first time in some time that I've had so many people just extend gestures of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's at the grocery store, everybody trying to get in real fast and come on back out. Whatever it may be, but that's something else I've seen. But I'm hoping that those are things that people learn from this pandemic and what we're all experiencing. And we're experiencing it together, so try and make the best of it.
Absolutely. And I would piggyback on you about the kindness. I know we live in a new community. We shifted, moved, bought another house last year, and we've been here a year, and for the longest time, I felt that the community was very cold. These people don't speak. But I've learned to give a little grace because I'm realizing that I live in a wonderful community, but everybody's just busy trying to navigate their lives. We're all guilty of being very introverted. Because we're so busy trying to run here, there, practice, work, get dinner, and they're just doing the best they can. But now that we've all had to sit down a little bit, when I go outside and I take a walk, nothing but kindness. Nothing but kindness. Right. Very warm community. So I would agree with you. And on that, I would like to thank you so much for being a guest on Phenomenal Woman Wednesday.
Well, thank you again for having me. I appreciate it. This was fun. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you for tuning in to Power 365 Phenomenal Woman Wednesdays. I believe that every woman gifts the universe with her own strengths and unique characteristics. Simply because she is born, the universe benefits. Every woman is growing, learning, and evolving. On this channel, only positive seeds are sown, no matter how flawed the soil. Take care and have a phenomenal Wednesday.